You're being hunted right now as you watch this. There are people in your life who view your kindness as weakness, your empathy as opportunity, your trust as stupidity. They've already identified you as prey. Have you ever wondered why the same types of people keep destroying your peace? Why you attract energy vampires, manipulators, and emotional parasites like a magnet? Why you give and give until you're empty, while they take and take until you're broken? Here's the truth no one wants to tell you. It's not an accident. Carl Jung discovered that certain psychological predators can smell your good nature from miles away. They hunt specifically for people like you, people who make excuses for bad behavior, who give second chances to those who don't deserve first ones, who feel guilty for having boundaries. Right now, there's someone in your life doing this to you. Maybe it's your coworker who always needs just one favor. Maybe it's the friend who only calls when they're in crisis. Maybe it's the partner who makes you feel guilty for having boundaries. Carl Jung discovered these aren't accidents. These people chose you. They spotted something in you, a frequency you're broadcasting, that tells them you're safe to exploit. And here's what makes this terrifying. You think you're hiding it. You think you've learned to protect yourself, but they can see it in the first 30 seconds of meeting you. You think you're being a good person. They see you as easy prey. Right now, stop and think. Who in your life drains your energy but somehow makes it your fault? Who creates drama that you always end up fixing? Who makes you feel crazy for noticing their patterns? That's not love. That's not friendship. That's psychological predation, and you're the food source. Let me show you what Jung meant with a real example. Sarah, an empath, always the good friend, kept attracting toxic people. Different faces, same pattern. Energy vampires, narcissists, emotional parasites. She thought something was wrong with her. Why do I keep choosing these people? But Jung discovered Sarah wasn't choosing them. They were choosing her. Because Sarah had what Jung called an unintegrated shadow. She refused to acknowledge her own darkness, her anger, her selfishness, her capacity for cruelty. So she broadcast a signal. I will never judge you. I will always forgive you. I have no boundaries, and predators, they can smell that signal from across a crowded room. Jung said, knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darknesses of other people. But here's what he really meant. Your trust issues aren't damage, they're intelligence. Your gut feelings about people aren't paranoia. They're your unconscious mind screaming warnings that your conscious mind has been trained to ignore. The most dangerous lie society ever taught you is this. Give everyone the benefit of the doubt. See the good in people. Don't be judgmental. This conditioning has turned you into perfect prey for the 6 psychological types Jung warned us about. Predators who feed on your inability to recognize them. Sarah's trust issues weren't damage. They were her unconscious mind. Screaming, these people are hunting you. Stop ignoring me. But what if I told you there's a way to see through their masks before they sink their claws into your soul? What if you could identify these parasites within minutes instead of months? The question is, are you ready to face the uncomfortable truth about why you keep attracting the same toxic people? Here's the brutal truth no one wants to admit. You're not attracting toxic people by accident. You're advertising yourself as available prey through behaviors you think make you a good person. Right now, as you watch this, there are people in your life who've already cataloged your weaknesses. They know exactly which buttons to push to make you feel guilty. They've mapped out how to trigger your people-pleasing responses. This conditioning turned you into perfect prey, and there are 6 specific predator types hunting you right now. Let me show you how they operate. Predator type number 1, the Crisis Addict. This is the friend who only texts when their life is falling apart. 3 a.m. calls, emergency favors, constant drama, but when your life falls apart, they're suddenly too busy. Jung called this shadow projection. They dump their chaos onto you, then disappear. Sarah had 3 of these in her life. Here's how it worked. One friend would text at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday with some manufactured emergency. "I can't believe what just happened. Can you talk? I really need you right now." Sarah would drop everything, her work, her sleep, her own life. They'd talk for 2 hours. Sarah would give advice, emotional support, reassurance. The friend would feel better. "Thank you so much. I don't know what I'd do without you." Then silence, for weeks, until the next crisis. But when Sarah's father went to the hospital, when Sarah texted this friend genuinely needing support, the response was, "Oh no, that's terrible. I'm so sorry you're going through this. Things are crazy for me right now, but I'm thinking of you." Translation: your crisis isn't convenient for me right now. And here's the trap. Every time Sarah tried to set a boundary, every time she said, "I can't talk tonight, I have an early morning," this friend would say, "I thought you were different. I thought you cared." That phrase, "I thought you cared," is a weapon. It activates your guilt, your need to prove you're a good person, your fear of being seen as selfish, and the crisis addict knows exactly what they're doing. Their unconscious mind has learned, if I create enough urgency, if I make them feel guilty enough, they'll always prioritize my needs over their own boundaries. They're not consciously manipulating you. Their nervous system is running an automatic program. Detect available energy, create crisis, redirect energy toward me. But here's what makes this predator type so dangerous. They make you feel special. You're the only one who understands me. I can only talk to you about this. You always know what to say. That specialness, that's the bait. Because once you're invested in being their emotional savior, once your identity becomes wrapped up in being the person who's always there for them, they own you. You can't set boundaries without feeling like you're betraying someone who needs you. You can't say no without the guilt eating you alive. You can't prioritize yourself without feeling selfish. And they know this. Their unconscious mind has mapped your psychological terrain and knows exactly how to keep you providing. Jung understood something crucial. The crisis addict isn't actually in crisis most of the time. They're creating crisis as an unconscious strategy to ensure constant access to your energy. Real crisis is occasional. Manufactured crisis is constant. And if someone in your life has a new emergency every single week, but somehow never takes your advice to actually solve the underlying problems, you're not dealing with someone who needs help. You're dealing with someone who needs your energy more than they need solutions. Before I reveal the other 5 predator types that Jung warned us about, reality check. 95% of empaths watching this aren't subscribed. If you're recognizing these patterns in your life right now, if that crisis addict example made your stomach drop, subscribe now. Because next week I'm revealing how empaths learn to hunt back. The predators won't see it coming. Society didn't just teach you to be nice. It programmed you to be defenseless. Every time someone told you don't be judgmental, they were removing your natural predator detection system. Every time you heard, give everyone a chance, they were teaching you to ignore danger signals. Every time someone praised you for seeing the good in people, they were celebrating your blindness to psychological threats. But Jung understood something your parents, teachers, and society kept hidden from you. This unconditional niceness isn't virtue. It's trained helplessness. You've been conditioned to suppress every instinct that would protect you from manipulation. Think about this right now. When was the last time you felt uncomfortable around someone but talked yourself out of that feeling? When did you last excuse someone's behavior because confronting it would make you seem mean? Here's what's actually happening inside your mind. You've been programmed with malicious software that overrides your psychological immune system. When someone makes you feel uneasy, instead of trusting that ancient wisdom, you run a program that says, "I'm being judgmental." When someone's story has holes in it, instead of investigating, you run another program. Give them the benefit of the doubt. When someone crosses your boundaries, instead of enforcing consequences, you activate the ultimate program. Maybe I'm being too sensitive. These aren't your thoughts. They're installed responses designed to keep you compliant and available for exploitation. Jung called this our persona, the socially acceptable mask we wear. But your persona of endless forgiveness has become a neon sign that screams victim available to every psychological predator in your vicinity. The very qualities that should make you powerful, your empathy, your compassion, your desire to help others, have been weaponized by people who view your kindness as stupidity. And here's the most chilling part. These manipulators don't just stumble upon you randomly. They have a radar for people like you. They can identify someone with weak boundaries in under 5 minutes. You think you're being loving. They see you as a resource to be harvested. Look around your life right now. How many relationships do you have where you give 80% and receive 20%? How many people only contact you when they need something? How many conversations leave you feeling drained instead of energized? That's not friendship. That's not love. That's psychological farming, and you're the crop. The most terrifying realization is this. While you've been busy trying to be a good person, they've been busy studying you. They know your schedule, your vulnerabilities, your triggers, your guilt buttons. You're not in relationships, you're in psychological harvest agreements. And if you're thinking, this is terrifying, how do I stop this? Stay with me. Because in 20 minutes, I'm revealing Jung's 3-step individuation framework that makes you immune to these manipulation tactics. But you need to understand the full scope of what's been done to you first. Otherwise, you'll implement the solution halfway and stay trapped. Now we get to the terrifying core of Jung's discovery and why you've been living in psychological hell without even knowing it. Your unconscious mind is screaming warnings about people every single day. Right now, as you think about certain individuals in your life, your body is sending you signals. That knot in your stomach, that sudden fatigue when their name appears on your phone, that dread when you know you have to see them. But here's the sick part. Your conscious mind has been trained to silence these alarms. Every time you feel that instant discomfort around someone, but force yourself to be polite anyway, you're committing psychological self-harm. Every time your energy plummets in someone's presence, but you tell yourself you're being negative, you're betraying your own survival instincts. Predator type number 2, the energy vampire. Jung discovered something that will make your blood run cold. There are people who literally cannot survive without feeding off your psychological energy. They're not choosing to be manipulative. They're evolutionary parasites who've developed sophisticated unconscious strategies to ensure you keep providing for their emotional needs. Think about that person who always has a crisis right when things are going well for you. That's not coincidence. That's their unconscious mind detecting that you have energy available and automatically creating situations that will redirect it toward them. Let me show you how this looked for Sarah. Sarah's co-worker would stop by her desk just for 5 minutes to vent about her relationship. 45 minutes later, Sarah's deadline work is untouched and she's stressed about catching up. When Sarah tried to say, "I really need to focus right now," the co-worker's face would fall. "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize I was bothering you. I'll just go." That guilt drop, that facial expression of hurt, that's the feeding mechanism. The energy vampire just made Sarah feel like a bad person for protecting her time. And now, Sarah will be more available next time to prove she's not mean. The predator doesn't plan this. Their nervous system does it automatically. You know that feeling when someone walks into a room and suddenly the air feels heavy? That's not imagination. That's your ancient survival system detecting a psychological threat. Your ancestors who ignored these signals didn't survive long enough to reproduce. But you've been taught to override millions of years of evolved protection mechanisms because someone might think you're judgmental. Predator type. Number 3, the guilt manipulator. Here's what's happening in your relationships right now that you can't see. These psychological parasites have trained you like a lab rat. They know exactly which behaviors will trigger your guilt, your need to help, your fear of being seen as selfish, that friend who only calls when they need something but somehow makes you feel guilty for noticing. Their unconscious mind has mapped your psychological terrain and knows precisely how to access your resources. Here's how this played out in Sarah's life. Sarah's friend asked to borrow $200. Sarah said, "I'm really tight this month. Maybe I can help next month." The response, "Wow. I've been there for you through everything, and you can't help me with this one thing. I guess I know where I stand with you now." Notice the pattern. Making self-protection feel like betrayal. Sarah almost caved, almost apologized for having financial boundaries, almost convinced herself that being a good friend meant sacrificing her own security. That's the guilt manipulator's weapon. They turn your no into evidence of your moral failure. They push those buttons unconsciously, automatically, every single day. When you finally say, "I can't help with that," they respond with, "Wow. I guess I know where I stand with you now." That sentence is designed to do one thing: make you feel like a bad person for having limits. And the moment you feel that guilt, the moment you start explaining yourself, justifying your boundaries, apologizing for saying no, they've won. Because now you're negotiating whether you're allowed to protect yourself. Jung understood that every human interaction is an energy transaction. Healthy people create mutual exchanges. They give energy. They receive energy. Everyone leaves enriched. But these parasitic types he identified, they've evolved to ensure the energy only flows one direction, toward them. Predator type number 5. The boundary tester. This predator shows up late to every meeting, then acts confused when you mention it. They forget commitments, then gaslight you for being uptight about it. Jung called this testing the perimeter. They're not being careless, they're conducting research. Every time you let their lateness slide, you're teaching them this person won't enforce consequences. Every time you accept their "I forgot" excuse, you're confirming, I can disrespect them without penalty. Sarah had a friend like this, always 30 to 45 minutes late, always with elaborate excuses. Car trouble, traffic, lost track of time, couldn't find parking. But here's what Sarah noticed. This friend was never late to job interviews, never late to dates with romantic interests, only late to Sarah. That wasn't ADHD, that was a boundary test, and every time Sarah accepted it, the friend pushed further. Late became no-show, no-show became last-minute cancellations. Cancellations became expecting Sarah to drop everything when she needed something. Jung understood. Boundary testers are mapping exactly how much disrespect you'll tolerate before you enforce consequences. And if you never enforce consequences, they'll take everything you have. The boundary tester operates on a simple principle: push until resistance. If there's no resistance, keep pushing. Predator. Type number 6. The gratitude thief. This is the person who takes your help, then immediately asks for more without acknowledging what you just gave. You lend them money, they ask for your car. You give them your time, they demand your weekends. You help them move, they expect you to unpack too. And when you finally say no to something, they act wounded. I can't believe you won't help me with this small thing after everything I've done for you. Wait, everything they've done for you? Jung understood this as insatiable shadow projection. No amount of giving will ever be enough because they view your generosity as proof of their entitlement. In their unconscious mind, the fact that you helped them once means you owe them unlimited help forever. Sarah had a family member like this. She helped them with a job application. Then they expected her to help with interview prep, then wardrobe shopping, then ride to the interview, then when they didn't get the job, emotional support for their disappointment. And when Sarah said she couldn't help them apply to the next job because she had her own deadlines, this family member said, "I thought family came first for you. I guess I was wrong about who you really are." That sentence, "I guess I was wrong about who you really are," is a manipulation tactic designed to make self-preservation feel like betrayal. The gratitude thief operates on a simple principle. Your past generosity creates infinite future obligation, and they'll drain you empty before they ever say thank you. In fact, expressing gratitude would ruin their strategy, because gratitude acknowledges the transaction is complete. But if the transaction is never complete, if they never express appreciation, then you're permanently in debt to their expectations. Now here's where it gets powerful. The individuation process I'm revealing in just a few minutes will flip this entire dynamic. These parasites can only harvest you when you're unconscious of the game being played. The moment you see the game clearly, you become unplayable. But here's Jung's most crucial and terrifying insight. You can't see these patterns clearly because they activate your psychological shadows, the parts of yourself you've been taught to deny. These parasites don't just drain your energy. They force you to confront the ugly truth about how you've been trained to participate in your own exploitation. The person who makes you feel guilty for having boundaries is showing you how you've been programmed to see self-protection as selfishness. The person who expects you to fix their problems is revealing how you've been conditioned to believe other people's emotional states are your responsibility. The person who takes your kindness for granted is exposing how you've been taught to give away your power to earn love. They're not just energy vampires. They're mirrors reflecting your deepest psychological programming back at you. And what they're showing you is that you've been trained to be the perfect victim. Here's Jung's most devastating insight, the one that will either liberate you or terrify you into staying trapped forever. Every single manipulation only works because you're secretly addicted to being needed. The moment you stop feeding the psychological parasites in your life, they don't just get angry, they reveal their true nature. And what you'll discover will shatter everything you thought you knew about the people closest to you. Jung called this withdrawing your projections. But here's what he really meant. Stop being emotionally available to people who are psychologically unavailable to you. Stop giving your energy to people who wouldn't cross the street to help you. Stop rescuing people who create the same problems over and over again. But here's the brutal truth that will make your stomach drop. This feels like you're dying inside because your entire identity has been built around being useful to people who don't actually care about you. You've been getting high off being needed by people who see you as a convenience store for emotional labor. Think about this right now, and be honest. How much of your self-worth comes from being the person others turn to in crisis? How much of your identity is wrapped up in being helpful, supportive, understanding? How often do you feel most valuable when you're solving someone else's problems? That's not love. That's addiction. You're addicted to being needed because it's the only time you feel important. And the people exploiting you know this better than you do. Let me give you a male perspective on this. A guy in our community shared, "My best friend only calls when he needs something." Moving help, job references, emotional support after breakups. I realized, he hasn't asked about my life in 6 months. Last week he called asking for another favor. I said no. He said, "Bro, I thought we were tight." I said, "We are. That's why I'm not enabling this pattern anymore." He hung up. Haven't heard from him since. And I feel lighter. That's what Jung meant by withdrawing projections, not ending relationships, ending the illusion that exploitation equals friendship. When you implement Jung's approach, here's exactly what happens and why it's so terrifying. The psychological parasites in your life will immediately show you who they really are. They'll accuse you of being selfish, cold, judgmental. They'll create manufactured emergencies designed to trigger your guilt. They'll suddenly have crises that can only be solved by your immediate attention and resources. This is Jung's concept of psychological crisis. When you stop feeding someone's dysfunction, they don't just get upset, they become desperate. Like addicts whose supply has been cut off, they'll do anything to get you back to your old patterns. They'll cry, manipulate, threaten, guilt trip. And finally, when none of that works, they'll reveal their true feelings about you, and that's when you'll realize the most devastating truth. They never actually loved you. They loved what you did for them. They never actually cared about you. They cared about your usefulness. They never actually saw you as a person. They saw you as a resource. Are you ready to discover that some of your closest relationships are actually just elaborate consumption agreements? Because Jung's approach to psychological freedom requires you to face the most painful truth imaginable. Most people in your life don't actually like you. They like what you do for them. And the moment you stop doing those things, they disappear. But here's where it gets even more disturbing. You've been so desperate to be loved that you've accepted being used as a substitute. You've been so hungry for connection that you've mistaken exploitation for friendship. The 6 psychological parasite types Jung warned us about can only survive by convincing you that being used is being loved, that being drained is being helpful, that being exploited is being appreciated. But the moment you flip this script, the moment you make your psychological well-being non-negotiable, everything changes. They can't manipulate someone who doesn't need their approval. They can't drain energy from someone who guards it like the precious resource it is. They can't create drama with someone who refuses to be the star in their psychological theater. But here's the question that will determine your entire future. Are you ready to be genuinely respected by fewer people, or do you want to continue being used by everyone? The parasites are counting on you choosing the familiar pain of exploitation over the unknown terror of genuine self-respect. Let me show you what this looks like in real life. Someone in our community shared, "I told my sister I couldn't babysit this weekend because I had plans." She said, "I guess your plans are more important than family." I felt so guilty I almost canceled my plans. Then I realized, she's never babysat my kids, not once. That sentence, "I guess your plans are more important than family," is a guilt manipulation weapon designed to make self-care feel like betrayal. The old you would have canceled your plans. The old you would have apologized for having boundaries. The individuated you recognizes the manipulation and holds the boundary anyway. And here's what Jung knew. The guilt you feel isn't evidence you're doing something wrong. It's evidence your psychological programming is being challenged. That discomfort, that's the sound of your chains breaking. Now here's the framework I promised you. Jung's 3-step individuation process that makes you immune to psychological predators. Step 1. Map your energy transactions. For 1 week, track every interaction that leaves you drained versus energized. Sarah did this and discovered something shocking. 8 out of 10 conversations with certain people ended with her feeling exhausted. That's not personality clash, that's systematic extraction. She created a simple note on her phone. Energy givers: Mom, best friend Rachel, co-worker James. Energy takers: friend with crisis addiction, sister, co-worker who vents. The pattern became undeniable. Once you see it clearly, you can't unsee it. And that awareness is the first step toward freedom. Step 2. Install boundary protocols. Create non-negotiable rules, not suggestions, not aspirations. Rules. Sarah's protocols. No phone calls after 9 p.m. unless pre-scheduled. No same-day favors without 24-hour notice. No emotional labor for people who don't reciprocate. When her crisis addict friend texted at 11 p.m. with, "I need to talk now," Sarah responded, "I see you're going through something. I'm available tomorrow at 2 p.m. for 30 minutes. Let me know if that works." The friend responded, "Never mind. I guess you don't actually care." Sarah didn't apologize. She didn't explain. She held the boundary. That's Jung's concept of withdrawing projections in action. The friend was trying to trigger Sarah's guilt, trying to make her prove she's a good person by sacrificing her sleep. But Sarah refused to negotiate whether she's allowed to protect her own well-being. Step 3. Enforce consequences without explanation. This is where most empaths fail. They set boundaries, then negotiate them away. When Sarah's boundary tester friend showed up 45 minutes late to lunch, Sarah wasn't there. She'd left after 15 minutes. No text, no argument, just consequence. The friend called furious. "Where are you?" "I'm here now." Sarah. "I told you I'd wait 15 minutes. I waited 15 minutes. I'm at home now." Friend. "You're being ridiculous. You know I have a hard time with schedules." Sarah. "I understand. Next time, let's skip it if timing doesn't work for you." She didn't argue about whether her boundary was reasonable. She didn't justify herself. She just held it. The friend accused her of being uptight and controlling. Sarah didn't respond. The friend never showed up late again because Sarah stopped being available for disrespect. That's the framework. 3 steps: map, install, enforce. Jung understood that psychological freedom doesn't come from changing other people. It comes from refusing to participate in your own exploitation. Now let me show you what happened when Sarah implemented this for 3 weeks. Within 3 weeks of implementing Jung's framework, 2 of Sarah's crisis addict friends stopped calling entirely. The third accused her of being selfish, then disappeared when Sarah didn't apologize. Her family member, who created constant drama, now treats her with cautious respect because Sarah stopped managing their emotions. And that co-worker who dumped problems on her daily found a new target the moment Sarah stopped being available for free therapy sessions. The boundary tester friend, who was always late, showed up on time once after Sarah said, "I'm leaving after 15 minutes, whether you're here or not." Then stopped inviting Sarah to things entirely because Sarah was no fun anymore. The gratitude thief family member sent a long text about how Sarah had changed and become cold and not the person they thought she was. Then radio silence. Sarah lost 6 relationships, but here's what she gained: energy to build her business instead of managing other people's crises, mental space to process her own emotions instead of absorbing everyone else's. The shocking realization that none of those people ever actually knew her. They only knew what she could do for them. Sarah told me something that will stay with me forever. "I used to think I had trust issues. Turns out I just had good instincts that I'd been trained to ignore." That's Jung's individuation process in one sentence. Not fixing your broken ability to trust. Learning to honor your unconscious mind's warnings about who deserves your trust in the first place. The people who disappeared from Sarah's life weren't relationships ending. They were illusions shattering, and what emerged from that wreckage was the real Sarah. Not the emotional service provider everyone used. The actual human being with boundaries, standards, and self-respect. Within 6 months, Sarah attracted completely different people into her life. People who contributed as much as they consumed. People who respected her time. People who showed up when she needed support, not just when they needed something from her. She told me, "I have fewer friends now. But I actually have friends now. Before, I just had people who knew my phone number." And here's where the magic happens. You start attracting completely different human beings. Instead of psychological parasites who drain your energy, you begin connecting with people who energize you. Instead of manipulators who exploit your empathy, you meet individuals who match your emotional investment. Jung understood something that will change how you see every relationship. Authentic connection can only exist between 2 people who have learned to protect their own psychological well-being. Everything else is just sophisticated forms of mutual exploitation disguised as love, friendship, or family obligation. Your new strength will be misunderstood by the psychological parasites you've cut off. The people you used to rescue will call you selfish, which is their code for no longer exploitable. The drama creators will say you've become cold, which means you're no longer emotionally available for their manufactured crises. The energy vampires will accuse you of changing for the worse, which translates to you're no longer a reliable food source. But Jung knew something they don't. Their opinion of your boundaries is completely irrelevant to your psychological health. In fact, their anger at your boundaries is proof that your boundaries are working. You'll walk into rooms differently, not seeking approval, not scanning for who needs rescuing, not automatically making yourself smaller to accommodate others' dysfunction. You'll speak with quiet authority that comes from knowing your own worth isn't dependent on your usefulness to psychological parasites. And perhaps most importantly, you'll finally understand the difference between loneliness and solitude. Loneliness is being surrounded by people who see you as a resource to be exploited. Solitude is being comfortable enough with yourself that you don't need validation from people who've never valued your actual humanity. Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But becoming authentic requires executing the psychological slave that others have programmed you to be. It requires choosing self-respect over social approval. It requires accepting that some people will hate you for refusing to be exploited. And here's the final truth. The people who matter won't mind your boundaries, and the people who mind your boundaries don't matter. If this resonated with you, if you're ready to stop being harvested and start commanding respect, I need you to do something right now. Subscribe to this channel, because next week, I'm revealing the exact phrases Carl Jung used to disarm manipulators in real time. Word-for-word scripts you can use when the crisis addict calls at 3 a.m. Exact responses when the guilt manipulator tries their tactics. Precise language when the boundary tester pushes too far. The predators won't know what hit them. And after that, I'm dropping a video on Jung's shadow work techniques that turn empaths into psychological warriors. Not victims who attract predators, not targets who get exploited, warriors who command respect before they even speak. Hit that subscribe button. Turn on notifications, because the individuation process we just covered is only step 1. Step 2 is learning to operate from power instead of fear. And I'll see you in the next video.